1 Corinthians 12, when it's laying out the charismata, the gifts of God's grace. And to us, the individual believer, are given these diversities of gifts, but the same Spirit, verse 4. And there are differences of administrations, but the same Lord. And there are diversities of operations, energizings, but it is the same God which energizeth all in all. But the manifestation of the Spirit in the gift in manifestation is given to every man to profit withal. Now, parenthetical phrases of verse 8, 9, and 10 expounding upon the profit of verse 7. For to one, not one person, context. The closest antecedent is the infinitive to profit, as he taught us. For to one profit is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom. To another profit. See, each manifestation has profit, advantages, capabilities, adeptness. They've butchered this for centuries because they say, for to one person is given. For to one person is given. No. Wrongly divide the word. Chop it to pieces. Make God look like a respecter of persons. Start all kinds of jealousies and enmities in a body of believers, because someone can say, well, why did he give you the word of wisdom and not me? That's what they all think. It's all a bunch of wrong dividing of the word. But as Dr. Withal clarified for us, to each believer to profit. The pronoun one is governed by the closest antecedent, which is not every man. It's the infinitive to profit withal. Both immediate and ultimate profit in the gathering, in the rewards. For to one prophet is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another prophet the word of knowledge by the same Spirit in manifestation, usage 5. To another series of prophets, whole packages of advantageous energizings, believing by the same Spirit. To another set of prophets, the gifts of healing by the same Spirit. To another set of prophets, the energizing of miracles. To another group of prophets. Look how often it's repeated. I think he's making a point here figuratively. He's driving this home. The prophet of verse 7, the manifestation is given to all for these prophets. All this each believer complete in Christ can draw upon. Discerning of spirits. To another set of prophets, divers, gainos, genus of tongues. To another set of prophets, the interpretation of tongues. But all these, watch it now, worketh, are energized by that one and the self-same Spirit, God the giver, dividing or distributing to every man, each believer, severally, his own. And here we finally get to it, as he, boulomai, as he maturely considers, carefully deliberates. That's your job. He is lowercase. Keep it that way. So many Bible texts capitalize it and hack the word to pieces, handle the word deceitfully, make God look like some big contradicting himself fool. The prophet is the one and another through verses 8, 9, and 10, and the he will is you. He's already expressed his will. All worketh in all. Verse 6, same God worketh all in all. Boy, you got to just get that in your head and not let the religious world talk you out of it. Steal from you all the advantages and capabilities of all 9 manifestations available to every born-again believer. But it's up to your careful consideration and mature deliberation. You think it through. I think it through. I work it in detail like I just showed you in part. I work through the profit and advantage of word of wisdom by recognizing the records of the word like we are doing, the profits and advantages of knowledge, of believing, of healing, of miracles, of prophecy, of discerning of spirits, of divers kinds of tongues. There's your bestowing more abundant honor. To another, the interpretation. I am to maturely deliberate and consider. Back to Isaiah. See how we tie it to the grace administration? No wonder great is the mystery of godliness. We're still in verse 2, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him under conditions, his obedience to the Word. And the great paradox was because he was so obedient, he had to lose the Spirit. That's one of the great oxymorons of all time, wise folly. Because he was so obedient, which guaranteed the Old Testament saints could hang on to that Spirit to their last breath, because of his obedience, he had to forfeit it to be the perfect Passover. Only one man could have paid that price, Jesus Christ, even though so many counterfeits have purported and set forth themselves as counterfeit anointed ones, counterfeit messiahs, like Elihu in the book of Job. Only Jesus Christ could have done it, and the greatest oxymoron of all time, because he was wise enough to never break fellowship, to always obey, to do the will of him that sent him. He had to pay the ultimate price of disobedience, your disobedience, my disobedience, so that we could have the gift, Christ in you. Talk about an oxymoron. Never thought of that before. The spirit of wisdom and understanding, sunesis. The spirit of boule, counsel. In other words, it's a gift that demands thinking to utilize it properly. Jesus Christ studied the Word all those years as a young man living in that little hillbilly town, Nazareth of Galilee, unknown to the world, showed himself at the age of 13, was it, when he went up to the feast, showed himself at the temple, amazed and wowed the scholars and the doctors and all that, blew their minds with his answers and his questions, and then went back into hiding until his 30th year, technically 29th, after his 29th birthday, 30th year. We worked all that in harmony of the Gospels, so he could have 1 year of public ministering, essentially, as he brought himself forward to call out the lost sheep of the house of Israel and to finish your redemption in mind. But all that thinking, all that study, all those scrolls that Joseph, with all that wealth that the Magi gave them, was able to get him his own scrolls, which would have been very rare, and give him the opportunity to search the Scriptures daily and work and discover his own identity. Spirit of boule and might, ischus, spirit of knowledge. Interesting, all the paintings of Jesus Christ done over the years, all the paintings of him doing miracles and walking on water, and all the horrible ones of him hanging on the tree, and even paintings of him supposedly coming out of the tomb. Has anyone ever done a picture or a painting of him studying the scrolls as a young man, working the Scripture? See, they miss the whole point, don't they? That there says spirit of Bulamai. He had to think that word through if that spirit was going to work. And might, God's ability to do. Spirit of knowledge, that's the word gnosko. Experiential knowledge of God in manifestation and of the respect of the Lord. Wow, we could spend all day on that one verse, couldn't we? Look at the doubles in there. Spirit of wisdom and understanding, counsel and might, knowledge and respect of the Lord. 3 sets of 2 there, beautiful. Son of man, 6, the number of mankind, perfect Son of man. Verse 3, and shall make him of quick understanding. This is interesting. This word quick particularly refers to scent or smell. Well, what manifestation do you think is being emphasized here? Discerning of spirits. Taste and smell are especially noted figuratively in the energizing of the manifestation called discerning of spirits, distinguishing, discriminating of spirit. Taste and smell, most important figuratively in the operation of the gift believingly to produce the manifestation of discerning or distinguishing or discriminating of spirits. I love that, how it makes this emphasis coming out of it. He had to sniff out the Pharisees and their rotten seed of the serpent nature. Remember, at times he ministered and took out devil spirits, and he called them foul spirits. I'd never thought of that until Dr. Withal taught it, the foul spirits, because they stink. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily every time the way God indicates to you a spirit that you technically smell it, but it means by means of the central nervous system of the 5 spiritual senses, you recognize it in the mind of the Lord by way of that spiritual sense. You don't always necessarily pay attention to the means, but it's the result that hits you. It's the result. Like when I walk into our kitchen and a pot of coffee's brewing, I think coffee. I don't really think, gee, that smells like coffee. Smell was the means whereby it got to my recognition, but my immediate recognition is simply in my mind, in the awareness. This is how these 5 spiritual senses can work. I shall make him of discerning, quick scent and smell of understanding in the respect of the Lord. That's important, because if you can't distinguish false gods from the true God, your reverence of the true God is going to really suffer. And that's what happens to many born-again ones who do not have the benefit of instruction. They want to love God. They want to worship the true God. But because they have not been taught that they have a personal adversary, they have not been instructed how to recognize the counterfeits whereby the prince of the power of the air counterfeits himself as the true God, pretty soon their allegiance is stolen to the devil spirit realm. And after a while, that true, honest, pure desire to worship the true God is sublimated, sublimated. It is decimated. It is desiccated. It is deteriorated. You get it? It is stolen from them, and they wander aimlessly, worshiping the devil spirit realm, thinking that's the best it's ever going to be in worshiping the true God. It's a travesty, but it goes on day by day, if the word's right, and I believe it is.